Hello and welcome to the Motoring News Zone, the show where we take you through all the biggest stories in the world of cars right now. This week we react to the news that car dealers could soon be facing a massive backlog of MOT appointments here in the UK. More shocking speeding stats have been released by British police, and we take you through why we think the Rolls-Royce Phantom Mark 6 is the most iconic Rolls ever. All that and a whole lot more is coming up in today's show. Let's dive in. So speeding in the UK has definitely been in the news recently. Now, I've already brought you a few videos going over some of the scary findings that the BBC and other organisations have actually found thanks to their Freedom of Information Acts that they've put in. And the police have released these stats and they are downright frightening. And the latest one is going over how many people have been caught doing over 90 miles an hour, which is over the fastest speed that you can legally do on any road in the UK, that being, of course, 70 miles an hour. Even allowing for a 10% plus a few more miles an hour, it's still, 80 miles an hour, if not less, that you could ever get away without getting caught and fined and everything like that. But apparently, a bunch of people have been doing over 90 miles an hour on Britain's roads, which, okay, sounds pretty bad. But then you realise this is in 30-mile-an-hour zones. This is 3 times the speed limit for these areas. And some people have been caught doing absolutely gargantuan amounts of speed, really. going on these roads that, 30 miles an hour. And here they are doing that. Anyway, let's read out the article, guys, and I'll give my thoughts at the end. Full article on the BBC News. So these guys are covering it because, the speeding epidemic is unfortunately not showing any sign of getting better. In fact, it's getting worse. But let's go over what's been said here. Almost half of UK police forces have caught motorists driving more than 90 miles an hour or 144 kilometres an hour on 30-mile-an-hour roads in the 20 months to the end of August, the RAC says. A total of 48% of forces found drivers going more than 3 times the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, while 90% had clocked people driving at 60 miles an hour. The highest recorded speed on a 30-mile-an-hour road was 122 miles per hour in South Yorkshire, and for 20-mile-an-hour roads, the top speed was by North Wales Police at 88 miles per hour. They can go back to the future with that. But oh my goodness me, that's over quadruple the speed limit. The highest recorded speed on any road was 167 miles an hour, as we already covered in a different video, on a 70-mile-an-hour stretch of the M1 in Leicestershire. The largest difference between the speed recorded and the speed limit was 161 miles an hour on a 50-mile-an-hour road in Somerset. The data came from Freedom of Information requests by the RAC, who made these to 45 police forces relating to the period from January 23 to the end of August 24. 40 police forces provided data. The highest speeds clocked at 30-mile-an-hour roads were South Yorkshire, aforementioned of course, at 122, Sussex at 113, Manchester at 112, same as West Yorkshire, no surprise West Yorkshire's. West Mercia Police at 106, Lancashire at 104, Nottinghamshire at 103, same as Bedfordshire, 100 in the West Midlands, and also Northern Ireland as well. Oh, my goodness me. RAC road safety spokesperson Rod Dennis said, although this data is a snapshot, it shines a light on the incredibly dangerous actions of a few that are putting law-abiding road users at serious risk. Thankfully, the police were on hand to catch these drivers. These are the people who've been caught, by the way. People have probably done more than this and just not been caught, which is even scarier in a sense. It's like what's going unreported here. Chief Constable Joe Shiner, the National Police Chief's Council lead for roads policing, said choosing to drive above the speed limit amounted to reckless, selfish and completely unacceptable behaviour. We know that some incidents of going over the speed limit can be genuine mistakes or errors, but the speeds cited here are clearly drivers taking deliberate decisions to travel at excessive speeds, putting everyone at risk. A spokesman for the Department of said there were tough penalties in place for the drivers who speed. While our roads are among the safest in the world, don't buy that. We are committed to improving road safety and recently relaunched our Think campaign with a focus on speeding, particularly on rural roads. I've seen those adverts. They're pretty terrible, to be honest, but, at least they're doing something about it. Speed is the biggest factor reported in fatal road collisions, according to the government's data, and in 2023, speed contributed to 888 fatalities and more than 39,000 collisions of all severities. More than 24,000 vehicles were caught on camera being driven at more than 100 miles per hour between 2019 and 2023, police data shows. I mean, yeah, this is the thing, right? You know, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh my God, no one should ever go even 1 mile over the speed limit. It's dangerous. It's reckless. It's 30 for a reason, guys. You know, I admit, you know, there's some roads where you think this should not be a 30-mile-an-hour road. This should be a 40 or a 50, right? But at the end of the day, it's one thing to go a few miles an hour over the speed limit, do a 35 and a 30. I'm not saying it's right, but come on. Everybody's done it. Come on, let's be real here, guys. Let's be honest here. Let's be open about this. But doing 10 mile an hour over the speed limit, that is just plain reckless in my opinion. Whether it's a 30, whether it's a 70, if you're going that fast, personally, that is quite reckless, I will admit. But then you're doing 20 over, 30 over. You're doing double the speed limit, triple. That is not an accident. That is a deliberate thing. That you cannot accidentally go that fast. And if you are, you're not looking at your speedo and you're not paying attention to anybody. The thing is, on motorways, I've always found this, it's quite easy to get dragged along with the speed of everybody else. You start paying attention to how fast people are going around you rather than your own speed. That does happen, especially when you're an inexperienced driver, I've always found. But you can't accidentally do that kind of speed. I don't care if you're driving a Hyundai or a McLaren. You can't do 120 miles an hour and not know you're doing 120 miles. You have to put down your foot. You're never reaching 120 in a Hyundai, by the way, unless you throw it off the side of a cliff. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this is just... it's frightening. 90 mile an hour in a 30. Mate, how can you do that? And like they say, it's not just your life you're taking risks on here. It's also the lives of people around you. What if there's a sudden red light? There's a reason why it's a 30 at the end of the day. It must be a tight road or a residential street or something like that. And to do that speed on a road where presumably at that kind of speed, you're talking about blind corners and all sorts going on. If you're not going to kill someone else, you're going to kill yourself from doing it. And that's just a fact, right? That just is. So scary statistics again being released by the police when it comes to speeding. They need to do something about it, and they are doing something about it. But you know, I mean, for me, someone put in the comments, right, on this, and I did go through the comments on the BBC article, that people doing triple the speed, you know, honestly, people even doing double the speed limit, doing 60 and a 30. I think you should have your license took off you for that, because you can't legitimize that. You cannot explain why you've done that. Doing 10, maybe 20 mile an hour, I mean, it's bad, but 30 is just downright reckless. It really, really is, and it's dangerous to the road users as well. So therefore, for me, get rid of your license at that point. You need to retake your driving test and learn not to be a complete rear end while you're driving. Simple as that. See you next Tuesday person goes over speed limits like that, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree on that. But yeah, guys, what do you think needs to be done? Do we need to have harsher penalties in place for people who speed to this severity in the UK? Your thoughts in the comments below. So, we spoke quite a bit recently on the Motoring Chronicle about the MOT, the test that basically determines whether your car is roadworthy or not. So you need to have a car that's got a valid MOT in date in order to use it on the roads. Now, apparently there is some issues when it comes to parts. I mean, we've spoke about supply chain issues and things taking a long time to either be built or be repaired, and dealers are apparently facing workshop chaos and customer anger if they don't prepare now for new MOT rules that are coming in on recalls. So let's have a look at this, guys. There's a full article here on the motoringchronicle.com. Of course, the rules of the road and everything like that. I mean, we spoke about the changes to the highway code that came in 3 years ago, and how most people either don't know or don't care about the changes that were put into place during that time. So these things can take a while to adapt, but it's not going to be the case for dealers, really. They don't really have a choice when it comes to that, and they need to act now or they will suffer the consequences of some pretty angry customers. So let's have a look, guys. Full article on the motoringchronicle.com as always. Millions of vehicles could soon fail due to unresolved safety recalls, overwhelming workshops and leaving frustrated customers scrambling for repairs. That's the warning from data experts ADS, who say that cars may soon be failed if a recall has been missed. ADS points out that the most recent figures from the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency should suggest that abrupt implementation of a new MOT failure or advisory rule relating to outstanding recalls would see dealers overwhelmed with workshop demand and countless customers off the road. More than 5 million cars are potentially affected because franchise dealers have lost contact with their owners, or customers have failed to respond to initial contact, according to the most recent figures from the DVSA. In 2021 alone, more than 2.7 million cars were recalled, with less than 800,000 rectified by the dealer. ADS believes that with recalls becoming increasingly common, the total number of cars overdue a dealer appointment is now significantly over 5 million. That is a lot. That is 1/6 of cars on the road in the UK, coming up to maybe around a seventh, but a lot either way. It is known that the previous government was working on bringing outstanding recalls into MOT testing criteria, and the new administration is expected to implement the change, but timing remains unclear. Of course, for those that aren't aware, the international audience, the UK, changed the ruling party through last year. So a lot of things like this are still kind of a hangover, really. We had the same party leading the country for 14 years, and that has now changed. So things are kind of up in the air when it comes to stuff like that. Dealers who don't now risk being caught off guard when new rules take effect, losing customers and damaging trust in the process. A sudden rule change, says ADS, introducing an advisory or even an automatic MOT failure for unresolved recalls could trigger a nightmare scenario, with millions of customers rushing for repairs at once. Dealer workshops would be overwhelmed, parts supply strained, and thousands of drivers left unable to use their vehicles, ultimately threatening the dealer with reputation and brand loyalty, or a lack thereof. One manufacturer has already launched a project partnering with ADS to get ahead of the curve. It has begun tracking the backlog of outstanding safety recalls so that its dealer can manage the pipeline of work more smoothly. ADS specializes in helping franchise dealers to keep track of customers who have moved on to independent service providers, changed address, or sold their. And with over 50% of dealers' databases typically containing outdated customer details, ADS urges dealers to act now. The company says that the dealer database analyzes consistently, and it shows that around 1 in 5 lapsed customers of this kind are currently driving cars subject to an outstanding safety recall. Successive governments have had a poor track record on decision making and responsible communications that avoid causing chaos for the automotive industry. You can say that again. So it is wise to get ahead of this problem immediately, said John Sherd, the operations director of ADS. If they don't, depending on how the government chooses to implement the change, dealers could be overwhelmed by unforeseen demands for new parts and workshop time, leaving large numbers of customers potentially inconvenienced or even off the road entirely. As well as signaling a potential duty of care issues for dealers, ADS analysis of dealer databases also show massive revenue opportunities are missed when the dealer or customer relationship lapses. One senior executive at a major franchise dealer group confidently told ADS, "We know recalls are growing as an issue, and if this continues to happen overnight, then we'll face weeks of backlogs just trying to clear MOT failures, let alone routine servicing." But beyond the immediate pressure, this is also an opportunity to reconnect with customers who haven't visited in years. And now we can encourage them to book in for servicing alongside recall work, strengthening relationships and ensuring that they return to us in the future. ADS stresses that the potential problem can also be transformed into a dealer revenue opportunity, highlighting data demonstrating that recall appointments generate an average of £309 per visit in additional servicing and repair work. John Sherd added, "Re-engaging lapsed customers can now ensure a steady flow of business rather than a sudden influx of urgent, unplanned repairs. Instead of reacting when it happens, we strongly encourage dealers to get ahead of this issue now, reconnect with lapsed customers, and also ensure their workshops remain in control when the change comes." Oh, it is a tough one though. This is the thing. It's a tough one to kind of say for these garages and stuff. It's all well and good saying, yeah, get these parts in, prepare for this change. It's coming. We don't know when, but it's coming. The problem is that then, I mean, a lot of these dealers will, specialize in one, maybe two brands of cars. So I understand the amount of parts and the number of different configurations and stuff like that will actually be quite limited in a sense, but it's still a lot to actually fork out, and that's a lot of money, that's a lot of capital they'll have to give up to go and do that on something that will happen presumably, but we don't know when, and we also don't know by in what kind of form that it will take really when it comes to that. So it's a tough one, but it is very much a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. Because if you don't prepare, like it says, you're going to be overwhelmed with it, and your customers aren't going to be happy about having to wait weeks, months to get the parts that they need to actually pass their MOT to keep their car as, up to service and roadworthy. So it is a tough one, and like we bring you so often here on the motoringchronicle.com, the UK automotive industry is not the best at the moment. I mean, yeah, sales are doing all right at the moment. We brought you news on the new and the used car market doing quite well at the start of 2025, but it's very much paving over the cracks when it comes to them. We've got a yawning chasm of a fissure when it comes to some issues really in the automotive industry. And you can read and listen to it all you want here on the motoringchronicle.com. We've got hours of video footage at this point going over some of the most damning indictments really when it comes to the automotive industry here in the UK, because it's not doing very well, to be honest. But this is something that could really hit the garages for sure, but we'll see what happens, guys. We'll let you know anything when it happens. But it's up to, again, a bit like with the ZEV mandate, this is an issue that has kind of spilled over from the old government, and the new government has to deal with it. The new government's been there for 8 months now. I'm not saying they've not had time, but they've not had that much time really. They've not had a lot, but at the same time, this is probably enough time to deal with this, I would say. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Oh my goodness me, is this a beautiful car. Now, I know there's a little American flag there on the left, just like there's a UK flag on the right of this car, but this absolutely screams Britishness. This is peak UK right here. It's a Rolls-Royce Phantom Mark 6 from the 1980s, and it's absolutely stunning. We've got an article here on the motoringchronicle.com. Unfortunately, we don't have enough images to make a full-on gallery like we do with some other cars, but just absolutely just drink this in. I might as well show the article now. Let's do it a little early. Look at the setup they've got here. Look at this. They're having a picnic on the outside of the car, and just everything about it just screams luxury. What a fine motor vehicle that is absolutely incredible. Even like the little badges down here at the bottom, the AA, the automotive people who help you out if you break down, the RAC, my goodness me, look at this is incredible. But let's read about it. Let's learn some more about this car. You can see why it's so beautiful. Just look at it, man. Just look at it. I dread to think how much that is worth. 7 figures. It's got to be quite comfortably looking at it. But anyway, full article on the motoringchronicle.com, because we can all dream. We can all dream, guys, at the end of the day. We can all dream of, owning a car like this, and then we wake up and we get back into reality. From its foundation in 1904, Rolls-Royce built rolling chassis, upon which clients commissioned coachwork from an independent coach builder. The Marquis produced its first complete monocoque cars in the 1960s, but continued to offer rolling chassis until the 1980s. Phantom 6 was the last Rolls-Royce to be made available in this form, in line with the standard Rolls-Royce practice established by Sir Henry Royce himself. The Phantom 6 was born out of the upgrades and enhancements to its predecessor, the Phantom 5. The accumulated improvements reached the point where Rolls-Royce engineers judged it sufficiently evolved to be worthy of a new designation. Even so, Phantom 6 already felt like something of an anarchism. Phantom 5 clients had been able to choose coachwork from 4 great names: H.J. Mulliner, Park Ward, Hoopers, and James Young. By 1961, the latter two had closed their doors, while Rolls-Royce had acquired and amalgamated the other two to create its own in-house coach builder, known as H.J. Mulliner Park Ward, which would provide the bodies for virtually all Phantom 6 motor cars. And they've even got like stools on the front of it. You can sit down and have. It almost feels rude to sit down and eat something on there or drink something, just in case you get the tiniest little speck of something on it. Like, my goodness me, what a car, man. And look at the hood ornament too. Iconic. Absolutely iconic. Like all Rolls-Royce models, the Phantom 6 underwent various changes during its lifestyle, including more powerful 6.75 litre V8 engines and a modern 3-speed automatic gearbox to replace the original 4-speed version inherited from the Silver Cloud era. It also had specially engineered brakes, which used the Silver Shadow style high-pressure hydraulics to operate rams connected to 2 twin master cylinders, and the brake drums were designed to improve the heat dissipation and more efficient linings. Changes in safety legislation required the front hinge doors with burst-proof locks, flush interior door handles, and a steering column that would collapse upon impact. New crash testing protocols also meant the prototype Phantom 6 chassis, the PRH-1500, suffered the indignity of being driven into a 100-ton concrete block at 30 miles an hour. A test it passed so effortlessly it was subsequently rebuilt and is still in service as a courtesy car at a Swiss hotel to this day. That is a indictment, isn't it? That is an incredible thing. Just like, yeah, we've crash tested this car, but it's fine. You can still drive it to this day. Although coach building was now a niche offer for even Rolls-Royce, Phantom 6 provided a fitting last hurrah for its long-standing traditional craft. The 7 special limousines, codenamed Alpha, for example, were superficially similar to the other Phantom 6s, but close examination revealed wider chrome-plated window trims and 16-inch wheels with tyres inflated to 90 psi. These modifications were required to accommodate the 5mm thick glass and 7mm of armour plating that rendered the rear passage compartment both bullet and bomb-proof. No such provision was made for the luckless chauffeur, however. I can imagine a few leaders of questionable regimes over the years have probably owned this car, to be honest, given the safety improvements there. Wow. Phantom 6 was also the last truly coach-built Rolls-Royce to offer both Sendeville and Laundelet coachwork. The Laundelet was available opening either to the B pillar or over the rear seat, the latter variant being the coach of choice for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and her daughter Elizabeth II, who owned 2 Phantom 6s. The first, codenamed Oil Barrel, had its roof height raised by 5 inches and the Perspex rear cupola that could be quickly recovered in a 2-piece black painted aluminium dome when the occupants require privacy. The second, delivered for the Royal Fleet in 1987, was codenamed Lady Norfolk and had a standard roof height. Both remain in service at the Royal Mews to this day. Increasing difficulty in obtaining minor chassis and coachwork components manufactured in the Silver Cloud era finally put paid to the Phantom 6's production. The last iteration commissioned by a client was delivered in May 1991. Its 117 bespoke features included solid silver fruit bowl to sit atop the cabinet behind a division, kept in place by concealed magnets. In its 23-year life cycle, just 374 Phantom 6s were built. The very last example to be completed was a Laundelet, finished in black over red, with red leather in the front and red velvet in the rear compartment. Very nice. Rolls-Royce had originally intended to retain the car itself, but recessionary pressures finally persuaded the company to part with it in 1993. Phantom 6 was the last Rolls-Royce model with traditional coach-built bodywork. It represented both the pinnacle and the swan song of traditional coach builders' art, with the purity of line and finesse of detail unequalled in Rolls-Royce as embarked on its contemporary coach-building renaissance at Goodwood with swept tail more than 2 decades later. I mean, yeah, the coach building thing is a very niche, but basically it's for the modern audience, coach building is basically the old school way of modifying your car. So of course, when cars first became a thing, they were very much for the elite. You know, only the richest of the rich could own them, and therefore they like to show them off and to make them quite unique in their own way too. There weren't as many cars on the road, of course, back then too. So you really wants to stand out. That's how you did it. You went and built your own coach. I guess it kind of probably originated from actually building a horse and cart coach as well, your actual thing that you used to ride around in before the days of the motor car, of course. So it's got its roots in that. Of course, it was very expensive to do this. Only the richest of the rich could do it. Even people who owned Rolls Royces probably could not afford to go to a proper coach builder and do it up for the most part. Some of them definitely could do, of course, but yeah. And Rolls Royce, of course, brought that in house. It fell out of fashion, and now it's coming back. I went to Blenheim Palace, of course, last year, as you guys know, and I saw some incredible cars there. And there was some coach building kind of companies. So they didn't out and out say they were coach builders, but definitely when it came to the custom car market and restoring things and stuff like that. I would definitely say they were of that ilk, and it's very much coming back again for the richest of the rich. Really, it's not really something that most of us could ever dream to afford. Just like a Rolls Royce itself, could never dream of owning one of them. And to be honest with you, I won't really want one personally. I love driving around as much as it infuriates me. But at the end of the day, they are massive. Rare you see a Rolls Royce. It's very rare you see them, but when you do see them, they are tanks. They are massive cars. I mean, let me just have a look at we saw some of the pictures of it there. I mean, that bad boy outside the black and white picture there, the second one, like that that's like a bus, and that's the point. It's meant to be massive. Like, look at me. I've got a Rolls Royce. I got a driver. I got Penfold in the front seat driving this bad boy. Look at me. That's basically what it is. It's showing off. But doing it so in a very classy and dignified way, of course, no doubt. But yeah, there we go, guys. Just a trip down memory lane for you guys looking for some Rolls Royce nostalgia there. I mean, have you ever seen one of these cars in person? I probably have, to be fair. Again, I've seen a few Rolls Royces going around every now. It's very rare, especially in somewhere like Huddersfield, let's be honest. It's not the most affluent area of the country, but it definitely is not that for sure. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Is this the best Rolls Royce ever? When I think of a Rolls Royce, I do think it looks like that. That is the kind of look I imagine everyone having. I mean, the new ones, of course, are very impressive, but they don't look as Rolls Royce, to me anyway. But that's just my opinion, of course. I'm sure in time they will be very much valued, of course, as well. But the Phantom is what you think of when you think of Rolls Royces for me. But yeah, thoughts in the comments below, guys. See you soon for some more content here on themotoringchronicle.com, and have a great day. See you later.